Hi, everybody. I'm out today. I have a problem at my house, and my living room is flooded. So I had to take care of that. But I wanted to give you guys just a basic overview as you get started on Act One of Romeo and Juliet. So we read the prologue in class together. I want to go over it again. And as you see here on the screen, I have the original prologue and I have the modern English prologue. Okay. So the prologue is very important because it tells us what we're going to read about. Okay. It tells us the basic plot of the story. Okay. So we find out that we have two families that have a grudge and they've been killing each other. And from these families, you have two lovers, okay? Clearly, Romeo and Juliet. Notice it says a pair of star-crossed lovers. So basically, that's a reference to destiny. You know how, like, the fault is in our stars or all the stars, all of that. Anytime people talk about stars, it's usually dealing with like destiny and fate. And so, Shakespeare here, where he says a pair of star-crossed lovers, he is saying that they were fated to be lovers and to die. Okay, so a pair of star-crossed lovers take their lives. It goes on to talk about that it's their deaths that mend this feud between the families. And then, as you know, it goes into the modern time where Shakespeare is actually an actor on the play, and he's like, okay, so this story, um, this this continuance of their parents' rage, this feud, which but their children's end not could remove. What that basically saying, which nothing but their children's death could remove, is now the 2 hour traffic of our stage, or is now what we're going to act out here on this stage. Okay. And then like if you go down here at the bottom, you can see it, if my little buttons weren't in the way. Let me see if this will do it for us. I guess not. Okay. So I just wanted to go over the prologue because it's so important, because it does tell us what the basic plot of the story is. It tells us that the two families, it talks about the two families. It doesn't tell us the names just yet. We find that in the cast of characters, but the two families are the Montagues and the Capulets. And where does this story take place? In the beautiful city of Verona. Okay. In the original, it says in fair Verona, fair meaning beautiful, in the beautiful city of Verona. Okay, so let me show you. So this is Italy. I don't know if I told you guys, but I actually lived in Italy and went to school there for a summer. And I stayed in this province right here called Arezzo. Okay, right down here is, Latium is Rome. And so I think that's, yeah, Rome is here. I stayed up and around here. Okay. Um, Verona's way up here. This is a mountainous area. And so it does get snow and things like that. So that's pretty cool. But I just wanted you to have a mental image of where Verona is. Verona is right up in here. Okay. All right. So here is the cast of characters. You have the Montagues, which include Lord Montague, Lady Montague. That's Romeo's parents. And then Benvolio, who is Romeo's cousin, and Mercutio, who is Romeo's best friend. Okay. On the Capulet side, you have Lord Capulet, Lady Capulet, Juliet, her nurse. And when we say nurse, we totally mean like her maid. But they called them a nurse because, like, like when you're a baby, you're in a nursery. And this is the maid that took care of Juliet since she was a baby. So she's called nurse, but she's more of a maid. Tybalt, who is Juliet's cousin, Samson, Gregory, and servants. They're all servants of the Capulets. You also have these other people in the play too. You have Prince Aeschylus, who is the ruler of Verona, and then you have Paris. Paris is Juliet's boyfriend slash betrothed. So let me explain. Back in medieval times, you didn't, if you were a noble, like if you had money, if you were wealthy, you did not typically get to pick who you married. Your parents picked who you married. And Juliet's parents picked this guy named Paris, who is like in his 30s. So like she's like 14 and he's in his 30s, but they picked him for her to marry. So as you can imagine, she's not real thrilled about that. going forward. All right, so we talked about the prologue, so I'm going to skip that. But I do want to talk to you about Act 1, Scene 1. Act 1, Scene 1 starts in Verona, of course, but in the street. It's literally a street scene. And we see that what happens in this scene is that a fight incurs. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about the idea of feuding families in Italy. So if you've ever seen The Godfather, you know exactly what this is about, okay? In The Godfather, they had these family feuds, and in Italy, this is like a real thing. In medieval times, they had these family feuds called vendettas, okay? It's similar to like gang wars, and that's the idea of like my gang is my family. It totally comes from this Italian vendetta thing. So Italian vendettas were called blood feuds, and they were a tradition that a lot of cities tried to break because in a vendetta, you had this idea of family vengeance. Okay, so if somebody is a part of my family and they have been hurt or they have been misused, it's my job to avenge them, and to get justice for them. So you know how like similarly in gang violence, like if you shoot a member of my gang, we go and we shoot a member of your gang. That totally was an Italian thing way back in the Middle Ages. The honor of a family required that vengeance be sought and gotten for injury or death of a family member. Okay. So that's what's going on in Romeo and Juliet. You have this situation where if one family slights another, or if one family is, for lack of a better term, mean to another, then the other family has a responsibility to avenge their honor. Okay. And because of that, the feud is perpetuated. And what perpetuated means is that it just continues. How does it continue? Well, if you offend me and then I go and kill you, and your brother comes and kills me, and then my brother goes and kills your brother, and then your brother's brother kills my brother's brother, it just continues on and on without any real end in sight, because it's always about getting someone back, and you never really do. So these are some clips from The Godfather. I love The Godfather. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies. And what I love about it is they really nailed down this idea of family vengeance, the idea of don't ever take sides with anyone against the family ever again. So that was said by Michael Corleone. He's the son of the Godfather. He takes over when the Godfather dies, but his brother took sides against the family. Like he didn't like what his brother was doing, so he went and got in cahoots with this other family. And his brother's like, you don't ever take sides against the family. That's how sacred family was in this vendetta situation. And then we have a quote over here, which is the father talking, where he says, you talk about vengeance. Is vengeance going to bring your son back to you, or my boy to me? And that's like a real thing. That's that whole perpetuated feud thing that's going on, because, once your son is dead, you could kill everybody, but it's not going to bring them back. And that's what happened in The Godfather. The Godfather's son was killed, and he could have sought justice, but he just decided not to, because he was like, it'll go on, and I'll look up and I won't have any sons, right? So that's what I wanted to really talk to you guys about, the impact of these family feuds. Unfortunately, innocent bystanders were often killed in the midst of this, right? And we see that happening in Romeo and Juliet. We see Mercutio actually get hurt just by being Romeo's friend, okay? And many laws were enacted in an attempt to reduce the violence of vendettas. And that's what happens in Act 1, Scene 1, when the prince addresses the crowd, okay? The vendettas and family feuds of Italy were well known throughout Europe, and that is what Shakespeare was really writing about, okay? I'll do that later. So again, I just really wanted to talk to you guys about family feuds and the fight scene that happens in Act 1, Scene 1, okay? If you have any questions about that, let me know. But other than that, I will see you guys around.